They are trying to take our freedoms away. Governments around the world are cracking down on hate speech. If you say something that's offensive to somebody else, the government can put you in jail. If you say some words that somebody doesn't agree with, you're going into a cage, which is absurd. The countries that are at most fault with this are the United Kingdom and Canada. Canada recently introduced some hate speech laws, and how pathetic and stupid can you be as a human being to try to limit what somebody says, things that you don't agree with? Are you okay in the head? Something must be definitely wrong with you in your brain. The best country that has freedom of speech apparently is the United States, and Donald Trump is working very hard to take that away. This is a fundamental human right. If it is taken away from America, then the rest of the world will fall. So never underestimate the ability of the government to take away your freedoms. That's their job. And fight for your right to speak.
So you don't think there should be any restrictions?
There should be some restrictions when it comes to speech. For example, you should be punished if your speech is threatening somebody's life or well-being. So for example, if I say, hey, I'm going to hate you in the next 5 minutes, there should be consequences for that, because you're essentially threatening physical violence. But anything else is fair game. Maybe there's one or two other things.
And also the question arises concerning social media, because obviously it's a different world that we live in, right? In the past, the world was not as connected. It wasn't so cohesive. So when you have the power to speak to millions of people or thousands of people, then that's also an interesting thing. That's, I think, also something that Facebook and all these other companies have to deal with. That is this issue of influencers having so much power, and what should they be allowed to discuss and talk about. That becomes and that's why these platforms arise like Kick, as opposed to Twitch, where you can begin to actually express yourself freely, when a lot of these companies like Facebook or Twitch start to censor people.
Yeah. I'm very glad and grateful for social media, because it gives everybody a chance to voice their opinion. You become the news. But that's not what the governing powers like. They don't want that. So this was a very clear example of this happened during the pandemic, where companies like Facebook censor people that they believed are saying the wrong things. Excuse me, I may be saying the wrong things, but I still have a right to say it. Why don't you take up the responsibility of saying what you think is the right thing, or what you objectively feel is true, or provide some facts, and instead of censoring people? That'd be a much better way of living, don't you think? Instead of just blatantly banning people or censoring people or taking people off the platform. Not everybody is a perfect human being like you, the person running this platform, or whoever these people are that are in charge of governments. They're absolutely perfect human beings.
Yeah, and it also takes into question, whenever someone is being censored, the person who is censoring them, they are censoring based off of what they think, or their truth, or their opinions, or their laws, or their restrictions. So that has to be taken into consideration. In North Korea, like, there's all this stuff you can't do because it's a dictatorship. You can't criticize or do the most ridiculous rules. So that happens when these governments, or that they take all of this power, and it all gets coalesced into a very few amount of people.
That is a very wise statement, that people censor you because they think they're right. Who do you think you are that you think you're right, and then you deserve to remove somebody's voice? No, maybe you are right, but the chances of you being absolutely right on everything is like 2%. You barely know anything. If somebody comes at you with a different opinion, you better listen. Even if you so strongly believe that that's not the case, or think that's not the case, are you absolutely certain for a fact it's wrong? No, you're not. You're not certain. So there's always some leeway. That's why when I ran my Discord community, and even on YouTube, people say the most weird things. I don't censor them. I don't delete comments. I never deleted comments. Why? Because it's important for you to voice yourself, number one. And number two, I don't know what the truth is. I'm figuring it as I go along. So maybe I'm really convinced that meditation and this, and somebody disagrees. Who am I to say no? Who am I to delete your voice?
To play devil's advocate at the same time, eventually, as the population grows, and we're already at 8 billion people, and everything's connected in social media, there is also that possibility of getting lost in the sauce. There's this idea that information is so widely accessible, and there's so much information that it's hard to filter out all the noise and to get to the crux of issues, or get to what's real even with AI coming. So it's like it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we should take away people's voices. But in addition, there's AI coming. There's all of this stuff coming that is going to be really scary. And if we don't know how to deal with that, we don't have some people theorizing and to think about how to deal with these issues, and it's going to be probably pretty problematic.
Yes, that's a fair point also, that the age of information is growing and soon you won't know what the truth is. That's why it's important to find sources that you feel are trustworthy. Case in point, a person like Sadhguru. He's a trusted source on all things spirituality related. So you can trust that if it's coming from him, if he's a source, then generally speaking, you can traverse that terrain comfortably, knowing that you are going to be protected and you're going to be safe. And the outcome is exactly what he says it is. So find trusted sources. But yes, it also scares me too with the advancement of deepfakes. You can make a video of someone appearing to say something or do something that is completely AI generated.
I've seen those Instagram posts, or those jokes where it's like me in 5 years after I'm in court and there's an AI video testifying against me. Like, that's kind of a scary idea, like that amount of power that, you can just create evidence, you can just create because I mean, once we got to the world of technology and video cameras and all that stuff, it was a huge shift, because before that you had to take people's word for things, or there was a jury and things were a little bit different, and then you got evidence became more concrete and more understandable. But now we're shifting back. We have this giant society, 8 billion people, but we're not going to know what the heck is going on unless there's some sort of something to fix that issue.
Yeah, that's very valid. And that, I think everything is getting better in a sense, because yes, 100 years ago, the availability for proof was the standards are so low, and the standards are increasing, hopefully, in the court system or the laws. But at the same time, mistakes are going to be made inevitably, and people are going to get sentenced even for life in prison, or even worse, for crimes that they haven't committed. And that's happening now. That has happened in the past. People are right now, I'm sure, serving life sentences, completely being innocent, simply because, well, you just were at the wrong place at the wrong time, or at the right time. And that is deep down, that pains my heart the most. Somebody asked me on a live stream, "What are you afraid of, or what are your concerns?" This is something that I think about sometimes, like people that are serving life sentences that are completely innocent. That must be very painful.
I think I remember seeing a video, some guy who was in prison for 20 years, and then they get out 20 years later, and then after they get out, they're acquitted of all charges. It's like, oh geez, well thanks. Now, after I just served my whole life was taken away.
Yeah. Well, if you're in the United States, the good news is that you can sue, which suing is also a double-edged sword. It's good that you can sue and you can claim compensation, but also it's overdone, and people sue pretty much. They can sue if you don't share the same opinion as them. So yeah, I know that you're from the United States. Maybe you can share with us the vibe of the US and the suing culture and censorship and freedom of speech and freedom.
I mean, it's nice because this country is the most one of that's been founded. I mean, many countries like China have been around for 6,000 years, and so they've tried to come up with systems that work in a new era, in a new age, and they had the capability to do that because they were founding a country. So the very first thing, which is completely opposite to what China's like, is the First Amendment is free speech. So that's good. That's in law there as an amendment in the actual Constitution. That's different than other countries. I haven't personally been affected by any lawsuits or been involved in anything regarding free speech or anything, or I haven't felt that encroach on me personally. I've always felt pretty free to do what I want to do. So that's good. But obviously, if you're living in a country like China, or in a country or in some Muslim country, it's completely different. I remember I've heard people talk about this issue of guns in the United States, and this issue of how the government restricts free speech or any criticism against the Chinese government. And so it's kind of a funny thing because, you know, people in the United States never think about, personally, I don't really think about often about this fact that there are, it seems normal to me at least is what I mean, that there are guns just in the United States. And in China, people think it's normal that you can't criticize the government. It's just a normal thing. So it's just kind of a, yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, there are guns in the United States, tons of guns. I'm wondering if you have a gun or if you have any experiences with guns.
I've shot a gun before, like at a shooting range, but I've never decided to purchase a gun. But obviously, I know people do have guns for sure. Carlos, I'm pretty sure, has discussed that he has a gun. I think like there's what, like the most gun, like there's 300, like this crazy. I knew a friend whose family and his father had an armory like in their house. So they had like a whole array and a range of guns. So they're prepared for the zombie apocalypse, for taking over the government or whatever else, and that's maybe a bad idea. I don't know.
There's a very funny quote about America, about the United States, and it goes something like, "You can't invade the mainland USA because there will be a man, woman, and child pointing at you with a gun behind every blade of grass." There are more guns than people in the United States, and if you invade, everybody is going to be a threat.
I remember there's this joke, you know, Joe Rogan, on a Joe Rogan podcast, he made this joke, basically, you know, so Muhammad, you're not allowed to draw a picture of him. Basically all around the world, like there was, people stopped posting pictures or photos of this one thing that got out of basically a picture or photo of Muhammad. And apparently word about this got back to Garland, Texas. And right after they heard this, they immediately held a Draw Muhammad contest in Garland, Texas. Apparently, a few Muslims showed up to the event, and they were killed almost instantly. You know, because evidently, you know, that was some sort of trap. Yeah, don't mess with. They had a really funny skit about Texas and messing with Texans, but yeah.
Yeah, wow. There should be a Draw Muhammad Day worldwide. It's such a silly concept that you can't draw somebody like, you know, tell me the lack of IQ that you have for your beliefs. That's probably one of them.
I know Carlos certainly doesn't.
Very critical.
He's very critical of the Muslim ideology and the fanaticism, or I'm not exactly sure the details of what he's thinking, his ideas, but very critical of that ideology. And
that's the end of our podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, like this video. See you in the next day.